a lot of times, notwithstanding the considerable hurdles that you have, a divorce is necessary. But you have to understand that it's also a crap storm. It's a huge crap storm. What are the costs, and when does it make sense to go forward, and when does it make sense to back off? Why doesn't she just file a petition and get him served and be done with it?
Well, I mean, fear, pattern of manipulation and control in the relationship, fear of the physical harm probably in this case because of the domestic violence issue. And then also just fear of survival, fear financially. Like, she's been home, she's been dependent on him. And now, like, I had somebody who was willing to cut his nose off to spite his face. And so he was bound and determined not to pay me no matter what I did. And so it comes at you. And I always say this hits you on multiple levels. It's like spiritual, physical, financial, everything.
The first consideration is her personal safety. The second consideration, I thought, is financial, because she has no reasonable source of income.
Right.
It's not like she can just go out and get an apartment because she doesn't have money.
Right.
I suppose one thing she could do is take whatever's in the joint checking account and leave with that. But if there's not enough, then she has the additional problem of finding a place to live and sustaining herself in the process.
That is a lot of what keeps the stay-at-home parent stuck a lot of times is, they're in this relationship and they recognize that they probably need out, but there's so much fear around that it just keeps us stuck. And the problem with that is that, your situation's not going to get any better by sitting there.
That's true.
You've got to walk through the fear and push through, find the support and the emotional support and everything you need to be able to, my opinion, if I'm in my 50s, which I am, and my kids are grown, which they are, if I was living in an abusive situation, I would, go out and get the first job I could find and start renting a room in somebody's house if that's all I could afford. You've got to start taking those first steps because I think that women in particular, we think that the situation is going to change. We're waiting for him to change, right? He's going to stop. It's going to get better, all this kind of thing. And most of the time, men or women, people don't change that drastically.
Right.
They continue in their same patterns. And so, it's like we were talking about the other day with the crazy making toxic relationships. When it's good, it's good. But when it's bad, it's bad.
You have to count the costs, and you have to realize that, it seems to me like a lot of people, when they get a divorce, they think that everything is going to be better as soon as they file a petition. And that's not the case.
No, it usually gets a lot worse before it gets better.
Right. So suddenly we have a situation where we have to fund two households. And that's just not as easy as funding one.
No, especially in California. They can barely fund one in California, let alone two.
And we have to protect our relationships. So somehow we have to carry on our friendships, even though that they may be mutual friends with this other person.
Right.
And a lot of times the friends take sides.
Right.
And of course there's the children, in this case adult children.
Right.
And their loyalties will sometimes be divided. And really this is about women for the most part. I suppose there are some men who are in abusive relationships and feel that they can't escape. But I
think there are definitely men who are stay-at-home parents who feel trapped by, maybe not necessarily physically abusive, but usually screaming, complaining, nagging wives who are, the primary breadwinner, and they're sort of gridlocked and unable to move too. We've had situations like that. People will often say, should I?
Yeah.
Should I leave? Should I do this? Should I do that? or, or if they have left, they'll say, oh, I should have left sooner. And what I always tell people is, like, you have to make this you have to leave when you know that that's the right decision for you. And it's different for everybody. Divorce is the same, or breakup or whatever, separation, it's the same for everybody, but it's different for everybody. I think what happens is we kind of become a doormat, and because in the cycle of the relationship. And so again, that's different for every person. And so I can't tell you what you should or shouldn't do. My decisions are based on my personality, things I'm willing to tolerate, what my value system is, and all those kinds of things. And so you may not share those same things, but I can tell you that all of our fears around, oh, this is going to be damaging to my kids. Oh, I am not going to be able to survive financially. Oh, whatever your fear is, don't let those things hold you back, because those things what I tell people, they tend to work out. I've had so many clients come back to me and say, you know what, that is so true. And they tend to work out. Right. I look back now, I think my boys have benefited in a lot of ways from the divorce and my remarriage to you. I mean, was there negative impact to them from the divorce? I'm certain there was.
Right.
But there was also some positive things, and we tend to get focused on the negative.
Yeah.
And hold on to that. And to me personally, if I was being physically abused, if I had to go live in a hole in the wall in the worst part of town and, work at McDonald's 50 hours a week to afford that hole in the wall, that's what I would do. I would not be.
You'd pay almost any cost.
Correct. For me, that's a no-go. Most of the time, if you've hit the point where you're going through or looking at going through a divorce, then yes, it is, because you're going through all these different types of abuse and craziness and conflict and fighting and all of these things that are not good for you. They're not good for the spouse. They're not good for kids if you have them.
Right.
And so, are there consequences to divorce? Yes, there are consequences to it. But there's also the opportunity to heal on the other side.
Right. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I would say that the best years of my life have been after my divorce. Divorce is a huge crap storm. And it's difficult financially. It pits you against somebody that you're very intimate with. So it's kind of like creating a war situation and then giving each side nuclear weapons.
Yeah. And I don't think divorce is always the answer. I mean, we did a podcast episode just a couple episodes ago where we talked about, do you have solvable problems? If you have solvable problems, then you should solve them. If you're not if it's not abusive and there's not all this conflict and there's not all these things, and it's just kind of like, Thomas always describes it, it's Tuesday, I don't want to be divorced anymore.
I don't want to be married anymore.
I don't want to be married. I'm sorry, excuse me. Yes, I don't want to be married anymore. Then, you need to work on your marriage. You have a duty to do that. But you do not have a duty to be a doormat and endure continuous cycles of abuse, in an effort to try to make your marriage work and sacrifice your entire self and your entire well-being at the threshold of that relationship. Everything is a balance in this. And so you do need to be committed. You do need to work on your marriage. You do need to stand by your vows, but you also don't need to be a doormat. Right.
So is it worth the cost? Is it worth the setting off the nuclear bomb? It's up to you.
Right.
It's up to you. You have to look at your values and your belief system, and you have to make a realistic assessment of hey, am I in danger in this relationship? And how and you need a plan for how you're going to move forward financially, both temporarily and for the long-term future.
Right. Call me and do some coaching around that, because that's creating that plan is something that you need to bring your own, like Thomas said, values and goals to bear. But you also need somebody with experience who knows what this is going to look like, who can guide you.
That's right.
Past the explosives. So,
yeah.
All right. So,
or at least give you a
map of where they're at.
Yeah.
Something. I don't know. Where the bodies are buried. I don't know. We're looking for all the metaphors.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So thanks for joining us. This has been episode 144. If you're watching a clip of this on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel.
What if they don't like it?
Well, then
don't like it.
Then thumbs down it, I guess, if you think we suck. So, and if you are listening to us, if you're listening to the podcast in iTunes or Google Play or any of those types of things, please rate and review us. Please also subscribe. That helps get our rankings up and helps us reach more people that we can help.
Yeah, this has been a good one.
Yeah, thanks so much.
We'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the